Hey, startup founders and small business owners out there, this is Zoltan Vardy, creator of the Launch Code. And this week, I want to talk to you about the importance of clear communication and share a couple of tools that you can use to make sure that you deliver your message with maximum impact. Now, you might think that communication isn't really that important when it comes to attracting new customers or business partners. You think, if I build it, they'll come. Nothing could be further from the truth. You see, clear communication not only raises awareness about you and your business to potential business partners, clients, and the like, but it encourages them to take action, whether that's to buy your product, to invest in your business, or to engage in some sort of business partnership. Now, high impact communication is built on two pillars. There's the pillar of messaging and the pillar of packaging. And once you have these two pieces laid down, then you have to apply them consistently across all of the different channels and platforms where your target audience can meet or engages with your product or service. Developing a high impact communication strategy is so important. I've made it building block number 3 of the Launch Code, my unique business development framework that combines corporate style planning with entrepreneurial execution to help you create a clear path to growth and profits. How many times have you come across, let's say, a website or been in a meeting or presentation, and the person or the company presenting to you says something like this: our company is present in 10 markets. We've got 100 different customers in 20 different countries around the world. We have 100 people. We have the first class technology, and so on. Every time I hear this, I want to scream, nobody cares. You know, this is like going on a first date with a potential partner and starting with, well, let's talk about me. Well, it's likely the date will be short-lived as the attention span of your audience if you communicate in that way. Yet so many businesses focus their communication around the concept of me, me, me. Whether you're a B2C company or a B2B business, whether you're selling a product or a service, whether you are in one country or 10 countries, whatever the circumstances, all your audience wants to know is the answer to one simple question: which of my problems are you going to solve? This requires you to use a customer-first communication approach. And this means you start with the customer in mind and you work your way back from there. Now, I've created a 5-part messaging framework that is built on this concept of customer-first communication and brings it to life. You just have to answer a series of questions in this order. Part 1, the problem. What core problem does your customer have? What do they want you to fix? What are some of the questions that they've asking themselves as they're thinking about this particular situation? Part 2, the solution. What product or service are you offering that solves their problem? Part 3, delivery and competitive advantage. What is your plan to help? How will you use your solution to fix their problem? What makes your solution so unique or compelling or special? Part 4, call to action. What specific action do you want your customers to take to gain access to your solution? Do you want them to call? Do you want them to set up a meeting? Do you want them to send an email? What is it that you want them to do? And part 5, benefits. What rational and emotional benefits will your customers experience if they use your solution? If you follow this messaging framework, you'll have a powerful structure in place that you can apply to all forms of communication that you use to reach your target audience. This includes your website's homepage, your sales one sheet, or even a cold email you send to a prospect. You need some proof that this works? Well, listen to this. Consumer goods companies have been using this exact same messaging structure and framework to sell products to customers for decades. Think of the last laundry detergent TV commercial or ad that you saw. It probably went something like this. Mom greets her kids who are come back from playing football and their clothes are dirty. Mom needs to get them clean. This is the problem. Mom reaches for XYZ washing liquid gel because she knows that these will help her to get the job done. That's the solution. You cut to a visual of this washing liquid and its double cleaning action that's going to get through the dirt and clean the clothes. And somehow the voiceover says, look how much brighter these clothes are compared to ones cleaned with the other leading brand. That's the delivery and the competitive advantage. Then the voiceover tells the viewers to buy XYZ washing liquid today and to take advantage of a special offer. Maybe it's buy one, get one free, or get 33% more, whatever. That's the call to action. And finally, you cut to an image of happy, clean kids running in the backyard and mom feeling proud and satisfied. And the voiceover says something like, XYZ washing liquid not only gets your clothes clean, that's the rational benefit, but you'll feel like a great mom too. That's the emotional benefit. Now, you can use the same exact messaging structure to speak to potential customers, investors, or business partners. All you need to do is to adjust the messages somewhat to the content that appeals to your target audience. Now, the good news is if you've completed my exercises on creating a clear value proposition and identifying the right business model, you have already answered these questions in some way or form, so they're at your fingertips. As a reminder, the value proposition statement includes the problem, the solution, the benefits, and the competitive advantage, while the business model informs basically how you are going to deliver the solution and determines your call to action. Now, you have to make sure you keep your communication simple. There's a great film called Philadelphia. It's an Oscar-winning film. Denzel Washington, the actor, plays a lawyer who uses a really interesting technique to understand his potential client's problems. This lawyer asks the potential client to explain why they've come to see him, and after they start explaining, he interrupts them and in mid-sentence, and he says something like, explain this to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Now, this is really sound advice for entrepreneurs as well. Many founders I work with, especially those who come from a technology or a scientific background, underestimate the importance of simple, clear messaging. Messaging even a 6-year-old would understand. These entrepreneurs often use really complex jargon in their communication. It makes it impossible for the average consumer or audience to understand. Now, these people and these founders often overestimate, first of all, the attention span of their customer, but they also overestimate their customer's ability to grasp complex ideas, okay? And some of them also believe that basically they're speaking to customers who really work in that industry, so they should really understand what they're saying. I think this is a mistake, and it's dangerous, and it's potentially really fatal for your business. Don't expect your customer to figure out what the benefit of doing business with you is. If you expect them to spend more than a few seconds to understand what you do and why it's important to them, it's likely that you've already lost them. They've moved on and looked for other alternatives. So here's the message. Limit the technobabble, limit the buzzwords, and speak in plain, easy to understand English, or in whatever language that you communicate. Simple test, just as our friend, the lawyer, says, explain it to me like a 6-year-old, maybe layer it a little bit higher and just read whatever you're communicating to an intelligent 12-year-old. If they can't understand what you're saying, you should revisit it and rewrite it until they do. Once you have a clear messaging structure, you need to be able to wrap this message into in a way that reflects your company or your product brand, okay? A brand, as a reminder, is a set of distinctive perceptions, ideas, or things that people have about your company or your business that sets them apart from other alternatives. You need to decide on 2 critical aspects of your brand, okay? The first one is your brand image. This is the idea that your audience has of your brand in their heads and the way they think about and talk about your business when they speak to others. So a great example is the luxury automobile industry, right? If somebody mentions the word safety, then the first brand that pops into people's mind is Volvo. If somebody mentions driving experience in the same conversation, normally they'll think of BMW. And if they say luxury, it's normally Mercedes. And if they say speed, they'll think of Porsche. Consumers are unlikely to confuse these different automobile brands because each of them has their own distinctive brand image. The second element of that brand packaging is your brand identity. Your brand identity is your name, your logo, the fonts you use, the colors, the icons, and the overall what's called look and feel of all of the marketing materials that you use to interact with your customers. All of these elements contribute to your brand identity. Your brand image and your brand identity should reflect your value proposition, okay, your customer, and the product or service that you offer. So, are you a premium service appealing to a premium audience? Are you a young, dynamic tech company that wants to appeal to a community of young adults? Are you targeting young women interested in fashion and style? Whatever your audience, your image is, you need to make sure that you develop a brand identity and your brand image that supports this overall positioning. Now, all of the information that you need to determine your brand image and brand identity is already in the value proposition statement and the business model. So if you haven't seen my videos on these two topics, please check it out. If you don't have the expertise in-house to create this, feel free to reach out to experts, freelancers or full-time people, web developers, designers, graphic designers, who are experts in bringing your brand to life and giving it the proper image and then giving it the proper identity. Focus your efforts on bringing this brand to life in two areas that are most relevant for early stage businesses, whether you're a startup or a small business. The first one is digital platforms, okay? Now, digital platforms may feel impersonal at first, but they're critical to reaching your potential audience. Why? The first thing that a potential customer is going to do when they hear your name is they're going to put it into Google and they're going to try to find something. Make sure they find something, and make sure they find something that supports your overall brand image and brand identity. All right. You also need to make sure that you have social media profiles. The big five are Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You should have a presence on at least 3 of these 5 platforms, if not all 5, depending on what your business is. Website is also critical. You need to make sure you have a quality website that reflects the information that you want to pass on to your customers, packaged in a way that supports your overall brand message. If your web page is more than a marketing tool, okay, so it's actually how you deliver your service, then obviously you would have to have a website. If that's not the case, it's not essential you have a website, but I would highly encourage you to do so because it adds instant credibility and believability to your potential partners and customers in their minds about your business. In addition to sales digital platforms, you need to make sure you've got quality sales and marketing materials that reflect your brand identity and your brand image. Now, these materials normally would be things that you use to support your direct contact with potential customers and business partners. So a couple things that you should have in your arsenal. You should have a one-pager, okay? This is a concise introduction on one page of your business and your value proposition. You can send it as an attachment to an email, or you can basically put it on your website as a download. Whatever it is, you need to make sure you have a one-pager that reflects the messaging that works for you. The second is a pitch deck, okay? This is a 10 to 15 page presentation that you use to pitch your business in person or in virtual meetings. An email chain, okay? This is a series of 3 or 4 emails that introduce you and your product or service to potential business partners and invites them to take action. These are planned to be sent one after the next, depending on whether people answer the previous email. And then finally, you should have an elevator pitch. This is a 30-second, 3 or 4 sentence monologue that you can use to introduce yourself when you meet somebody in an informal setting, even potentially in an elevator. Overall, you need to make sure you keep your message simple and your brand consistent, okay? As you're putting these different elements together, keep in mind that these are only as strong as they are capable of being understood by your target audience, okay? If they're consistent, if they're clear, then every time somebody interacts with your brand and your company, they're gonna get the same stuff. And this is gonna make you much more powerful in delivering a clear, high impact message to the people you wanna reach. So follow these tips as you implement your communication strategy, and I guarantee you that you and your business are going to blast off.